Hey guys, so here we are. We are going to do our lab for today. It is called the Signs of a Chemical Reaction Lab. So we're going to go through and identify a whole bunch of different signs of chemical reactions. So you'll see laid out here a number of things. We have a series of cups. They're kind of cut off, but they are clear cups. They're labeled with numbers. They correspond with the the Dixie cups here that have various chemicals in them. The first one is sodium bicarbonate. Cup number 2 is sodium carbonate, that is otherwise known as washing soda. The third one is calcium chloride. And the fourth one is magnesium sulfate, MgSO4, which is otherwise known as Epsom salts. Okay. Behind it, you see a test tube rack that is labeled A through D, and it's got 4 test tubes in it. And then behind that, we have 200 milliliters or so of a cabbage juice indicator. So you can see it's very pink in color. All right. And we have a graduated cylinder that we are going to use to measure out our cabbage juice. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to measure out 50 milliliters of cabbage juice and put it into each of our cups. Okay, so pour that in there. Okay. Doesn't have to be a perfect pour, but I'm just looking for an approximation of 50 milliliters. The way we read a graduated cylinder is you look for the bottom of the liquid, which is called the ellipsis. Wow, came up a little short on that. That's okay, be all right. So we have our 4 substances poured in. So we're gonna start with sodium bicarbonate. I'm going to bring this up into your field of view. We're going to pour that in. And you guys can go ahead and write down your observation of what happened. So we went from that purple that you see to a very blue color. Okay. I don't notice any bubbles being created. I don't notice, maybe very slight bubble, and I don't notice any significant temperature changes to report. Okay, our second one is NaHCO3. This is sodium carbonate, so I'm going to pour that one in for you guys to see. And so we can see a color change definitely on this one. The first one went to a blue. This one is giving us like a green. Okay, so we can see that right there. It looks pretty green. All right, I'm going to swirl that around a little bit. This one is definitely creating some heat. As I feel the cup, I am feeling some warmth coming from it. And it looks like there might be some bubbles, some gas being produced. If you can see that kind of layer on the top of a little bit of foam. Okay. Our next one that we are going to fill is the calcium chloride, CaCl2. So I'm going to hold this up for you guys to see. I'm going to pour that in. Mix it up. All right, and again, we're getting this greenish color to it as it dissolves a bit. And this one is definitely exothermic. It is putting off a fair amount of heat. Okay, and as you look at it, again, we have a little bit of a foam on it, so there's a little bit of a gas being released. Now, that's likely going to be, actually, I don't know what that would be. Our last one here is magnesium sulfate, so I'm going to hold it up for you guys to see again. We're going to pour it in. And we're going to stir it up a little bit. So this one is still keeping its pinkish texture. It's a lighter shade of pink though. No noticeable, maybe a little bit of a temperature decrease in this one, but it's not significant. I will say the middle two, the number 3 definitely is feeling hot. Number 2 feels warm, and number 1 doesn't seem to have changed at all. So I would say number 4 probably decreased in temperature a little bit, and you can see the color of it there. So our next step is we are going to mix some of these chemicals together, all right? And when we do that, we're gonna observe some changes. And so to do that, we are using what's called a pipette. So this is where you pinch the top there, and it's going to suck some of the liquid up into the pipette. So I'm gonna make sure that I put 1 in each cup. And we're going to make sure that we don't cross-contaminate. So we want to make sure we take liquid out of one and then put it right back into the same cup so we don't mix them up and mess up our reaction. So we're going to start with magnesium sulfate, which is cup number 4 here. So I'm going to fill it up, and our directions in the lab say to put this into test tube A. And I want to fill it till it's about quarter full. So it's going to take a couple pipettes full before you have your full amount. Okay. While I'm doing this, you guys can be filling in your observations from what you saw so far. All right, so we'll do one more. So this is magnesium sulfate, MgSO4. Now we're going to add in sodium carbonate, which was Na2CO3. Okay, so we're going to observe what we see when we put this in. So immediately we saw a change, and I'm going to stop there and bring this up for you to see close up. It's now like a teal color, and if you look closely at it, you can see some solids that were formed. So this is what we call a precipitate. A precipitate is a solid that is formed in the liquid, and you can see it in the test tube there. Okay, so that would be test tube A. Okay. So our second test tube is going to be a combination of magnesium sulfate and calcium chloride. So magnesium sulfate, I'm going to put some more of that in here. Again, we're going to go for it to be about quarter full. This isn't a super precise amount, but we just want there to be enough that we can see the reaction happen. As I'm drawing this off, I'm making sure, because if you may have seen, that there was still some of the powders at the bottom of these cups. So I was just making sure I wasn't sucking up any of the powder off of the bottom. Okay. And we are mixing this one with calcium chloride, CaCl2. So that's going to be this third one here. So I'm going to add that in. And we'll add a second squirt. So we can see that turned very green. We can see bubbles are being produced as the two liquids interacted. Okay. I don't notice any temperature change on that one. And actually, let me go back to the first one. I would say the first one probably decreased temperature a little bit. Okay. Our third reaction that we are going to create, we are going to take magnesium sulfate and sodium bicarbonate. So magnesium sulfate, MgSO4. Of course, that's the one that I had the least of because I mismeasured. Okay. So just remember some of our vocab words from earlier. An exothermic reaction is one that is going to give off heat. That means the energy that is released when the new bonds are formed is greater than the energy that was used to create them, to break them, so that gives off extra heat. Endothermic is something that is going to absorb heat. It's going to take heat from the environment. It's going to take heat from your hand and make it feel cold. So this one, this is letter C, so this is magnesium sulfate and sodium bicarbonate. This is the baking soda, so I'm going to go down here and get test tube number 1. So we added that in, and we get a bluish, clear bluish color. And when we hold this up, I don't know if you can see it on the video there, but there are very faint bubbles raising in the liquid. Okay, almost looks like a suspension of bubbles. I don't know if you can quite see that. Okay, and this one definitely feels a little bit cool to the touch. So we have that. Our final one then is going to be calcium chloride and sodium bicarbonate. So calcium chloride is this middle one here. So we're going to get that. That's the one that was hot to the touch earlier. All right. So there we go. And we were going to mix calcium chloride with sodium bicarbonate, which was our first one. So I'm going to get that. And then let's tilt the camera a little bit so you can see test tube number 4 off to the side there. So we're going to put that in. And it immediately formed a purplish liquid. Very definitely fizzing. You can see the foam rising in the test tube there. A lot of gas being produced. So since this is sodium bicarbonate, you're producing a lot of CO2 gas. And you can see it just streaming up off the bottom there. Okay. This is a reaction. It is definitely feeling warmer. But again, you can see that carbon dioxide gas just streaming off the bottom of the test tube and leaving us this foam that's left behind. Okay. So those are our 4 reactions. What you are going to do now is you're going to make a general statement about your results. What did you observe in our reactions? And then you're also going to talk about, or you're going to answer, what signs of a chemical reaction can be observed when different substances are combined. We had several different signs of a chemical reaction. If you don't remember what those signs are, you may want to look at the table because I'm asking you what they are. Are we seeing a color change, a temperature change? Is there a gas being produced? Is there a precipitate that is forming? And evidence of a chemical change is just going to be, do we see something? And what is it? So in that evidence of a chemical change, I want you to describe what you're seeing, okay? So describe what you're seeing. So yes, there was a temperature change. Did it go high? Did it go low, right? That is the end of the lab for today, and I will share with you guys one of these reactions is going to take a little bit longer to fully transform, and I think it's going to be reaction number 2, the sodium carbonate. But we will see. I'm going to let these sit for a little bit.
A few moments later.
This is sodium carbonate, and you can see the very different color that it has taken on. It's much more yellowish green. Okay. I also did one experiment that wasn't on the list, just because I was curious. This is calcium chloride with sodium carbonate, and you'll see that it formed 2 different liquids, or 2 different substances in there, and they've got a very different density, so it forms a very fine line between the two substances. So just another little curiosity for you. But so this was the reaction for the sodium carbonate over time. Is it continued to evolve, continued to react, and continued to change colors. That is the end of the video for today. Thank you for sticking around. Make sure you fill out your data table, your observations of what you saw and felt, what I described a feeling to you. And then do make sure that you answer that CER on the last page, answering the question, what signs of a chemical reaction can be observed when different substances are combined? So you'll make a claim. Remember, your claim is going to answer that guiding question. So the answer would be, signs of a chemical reaction that can be observed are, and you're going to list out what you see. Give me your evidence. What are you seeing? What evidence was gathered in order to show you that you've got that? And then what is your reasoning? Explain to me how your evidence supports your claim. All right? Thank you very much for watching, guys. I hope you have a great day.